For our final panel of the day, we imagined at this point you guys would be pretty hooked on Web3 and all be clamoring over yourselves asking how to get a job. So to address that need, we have put together a panel consisting of Will Burleson and Alex Carter. Will is the head of growth at Uptop Search, and Alex is a senior talent sourcer at Fidelity Digital Assets. To moderate the panel, we have Amy Boudreau, who is an associate at Bankless Consulting. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
How's everybody doing? This is the last panel of the final day. Congratulate yourselves for being here. All right, so before we get started with this panel, I want to learn a little bit about everyone that's in the crowd. So raise your hand if you got bills. Bills? All right, raise your hand if you're trying to make money. Okay, I better see everyone's hands up there. All right. Raise your hand if you currently work in Web3. Okay, solid bunch. Raise your hand if you are a student or a professional trying to transition into Web3. Okay, raise your hand if you consider yourself to be technical. Developer, product designer. Okay, and then raise your hand if you are one of those core functional non-technical people that companies still need. Marketing, biz dev. All right, we are going to be covering something for everyone. Whether you're currently working with Web3 and you want to find something else, we got you. If you're trying to break into the space, we have stuff for you. And I think one of the biggest things in Web3 is for folks that are non-technical, how do you get involved? What are the roles out there? We have things for you as well as for the technical folks. And then last thing before we get started is we will save 5 minutes at the end of this for questions from the audience. So take out your phone or jot something down and save that for the last 5 minutes. All right.
Save it for later.
All right, so before we get started, maybe we'll do a quick round of introductions. So what I'll ask you guys is just a little bit about your current role, how long you've been in Web3, and then like a light speed breakdown of your career history. So I'll go first. Amy Boudreau. I'm a member of the Bankless DAO, an associate at Bankless Consulting, a member of Boys Club, and I'm currently doing marketing and digital ops support for Cello. I've been in the space for, I don't know, somewhere between a year and 2 years. Proud Yellow Jacket graduated from Georgia Tech. Woo woo. Went straight into tech consulting at Capgemini, implementation work, software assessments, things like that. And then worked at SaaS companies like MuleSoft, Twilio, Salesforce, Full Story, local to Atlanta, doing consultative sales. So Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey everybody, Alex Carter. Current role is a senior talent sourcer at Fidelity Digital Assets, which is the crypto arm of Fidelity Investments. Previous to Fidelity, I was at Coinbase for about 8 months where I was focusing on non-tech hiring, mostly on leadership, so senior manager and above. Previous to that was actually on the agency side before going in-house, started my career in construction recruiting. So definitely made it a long way from that. Atlanta, kind of local, grew up here, went to school and graduated at Kennesaw. So excited to be here, kind of chatting about crypto with you guys.
Sweet. My name is Will Burleson. I'm with Uptop. We're a crypto native talent agency. So we work with like VCs and like the portfolio companies. I've been there 8 months. From like a personal perspective, I've been like involved in this space since like 2017, but at the turn of 2022, decided to like make the leap and go like full-time Web3. I do like growth initiatives and like try and split my time between like recruiting and growth. So before that, actually come from a military background. So I was in Navy medicine. So going from like something like super structured like to Web3, like it was definitely like an adjustment period, but really enjoying it and probably wouldn't ever go back. So,
So I'll already say that's amazing. So we have someone who started in construction and someone who started in the military and now working in Web3. So wherever you are today, you can
All
make
walks
this
of life.
transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the first theme that we're going to go over is the networking landscape in Web3. So from my experience coming out of tech, if you're looking for a job, you're probably going to LinkedIn, job boards, maybe a career fair. But Web3 is a little bit different. It's very virtual still right now. So I'm wondering, Will, if you can tell us a little bit about how people connect in Web3 that might be a little bit different from established industries and how that affects the recruitment process.
Cool. So yeah, I'll break it down a couple ways. I think one of the interesting things is like, sure, everything is like online, but like some of the best relationships with like the partners or like the clients that we have, like those relationships have like been built or like maintained in person as well. Like I think the trust factor is huge, and then you kind of carry that on to like a digital relationship, like, you know, whether it's like over Discord, Twitter, email, etc. The other thing as well, like so networking in the space, like I'll name drop. So like developer DAO, like that's super interesting. Has anybody heard of developer DAO before? Yeah. So I've been involved in there for, you know, a couple months, and like I've heard some of the really cool stories. Is like when a protocol started out, like they hired an engineer from there, and their friend like then networked and they built like their whole engineering team out of there. So that's like something that's like completely different. Like I don't think you would see that in like the traditional finance world. Like I think that's just like a completely, you know, different way to go about things.
So would you say that, so in terms of how people created those connections, sounds like it still comes down to person, but do you think that people are making those connections more in-person events? Is it on Discord? Is it on Twitter? What are you seeing in the recruitment side?
I mean, we do things like really different. I think like community, since I've started, I've sent probably less than like 10 to 20 outreach messages on LinkedIn. Everything that we have done is like through Discord, like Twitter. So it's like completely different like approach.
I would say too, I mean, I think the tough part about networking in general is it's definitely a skill. I mean, I don't think anybody just wakes up as like a natural born networker who can walk into a conference like this, make a ton of friends, get a bunch of job offers. Like you kind of have to learn, you kind of have to go and kind of, you know, get that skill sharpened. And I think with Web3, the tough part, a lot of it's about knowledge. I mean, like I've had conversations that are way above my head in crypto, and you know, there's some judgment there, and you kind of have to learn how to, you know, navigate some of those tough conversations and educate yourself. So, you know, with networking in general, you know, get out there, participate in a DAO or a Discord, you know, contribute on Twitter. I mean, do some research wherever you can and just kind of participate. And I think naturally you'll kind of start getting better and better at it. And I agree. I mean, I think networking in Web3 is a huge component of how people are getting jobs. It's turning more away from a job board into who you know. But also for me, you know, when I was networking, I originally started coming to conferences or having conversations around, you know, what can this other person do for me? And it changed when I started going, you know, what can I do for you? And trying to contribute to other people. And then that kind of comes back on the back end. So I would recommend kind of taking that approach to anybody that's struggling.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to remember. I think sometimes in Web3, we think that we're going to approach everything completely differently. And there are certainly things that we want to change, but there are skills that you'll bring from Web 2 that can help you in Web 3.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like he said, like definitely like give before you ask. And it's also like not something that happens overnight. Like it's absolutely a snowball effect. It took me like 6 months. But like over time, you know, you make one connection and they introduce you to like one other fantastic connection. And it really just it's a snowball effect really.
Alex, I'm curious from your perspective, working at Fidelity, a more established traditional company, how do you see the traditional venues of recruitment playing into the way that you approach hiring? Things like LinkedIn, things like career fairs. How much are you still using those avenues? And if so, how are you using it maybe a little bit differently?
Yeah, so I mean, Fidelity is definitely a player where we're still using that, but also bringing in stuff like Discord and Twitter to try to navigate those different networks. I mean, me, myself, on the talent sourcing side, I'm all external. A lot of the candidates that I'm connecting with are on LinkedIn. But I've changed my approach to, instead of looking for keywords or search strings like we do as recruiters, I'm now looking for things on your LinkedIn like, hey, are you participating in a DAO? Do you have your interest about crypto in your bio? My favorite thing to see when I find somebody is, do you have an NFT as your profile picture on LinkedIn? Like, that's a sure shot way to differentiate from most of the other people out there. So I still recommend using LinkedIn and even applying on job boards. Like, I think you should definitely cover the market when it comes to trying to get into a place. But as well, go to a Discord, jump in there, try to find a jobs chat, or try to connect with somebody on Twitter that can get you into it. And Fidelity is kind of focused on all of those.
All right, so what I'm taking away is a pro tip. If you're trying to get Alex's attention, put a NFT on your CV instead of your normal profile picture, and maybe you'll jump to the top of the list.
Yeah, I would definitely have a conversation with you for sure.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, guys. So now we're going to get a little bit of the recruiter perspective in hiring today. So first one, and either one of you guys can go for this one. So I know that for a lot of people jumping into this space, you can feel like, well, maybe I don't have the experience. I've never done anything in Web3. I'm interested. Maybe I hold an NFT, or I've done a couple things. So as recruiters, how do you evaluate a candidate that comes up that maybe has some domain expertise, like they've been a developer for a long time, or they're a senior marketer, but maybe don't necessarily have the experience in Web3? How do you evaluate something like that?
I think like if you're a developer, like there's a lot of ways to like kind of make yourself stand out. Like if you don't necessarily have like proof of work experience within crypto, i.e. you could do some sort of like, self-wallet, or you make like a market making bot, you do something that's like in this space, but maybe not from a career perspective. And that definitely sets you out. And then there's other stuff like participating in a hackathon, you know what I mean? Like not everybody's doing that. So just like the small things that you can do, like they really add up.
Yeah, and from the non-tech side, since that's mostly what I focus on, a lot of it is kind of situational based questions around, why are you in crypto? If we're on a phone kind of chatting and we're, talking about a role, if the only thing you've done is hear about it and you haven't participated, that's not the best thing to hear. Like, I want to hear about what you're excited for. I want to hear about, projects that you're following. It's not always about just the role and what a hiring manager is looking for. It's about some of those translatable skills that can bring excitement and maybe new culture to the team, because I think those are the most important parts. And I mean, I think, the companies that are really going to hire the best people and have the best culture are going to be the ones that can figure out how to take super crypto native talent and people that have not been exposed to it but are excited, and can blend them together and onboard and kind of exchange knowledge. I don't feel like it's a company only has to have crypto native people. I feel like you got to have a balance just across. So I'm excited to see how that kind of plays out.
That's a great point, the last one.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about this space right now, compared to established industries, is it's so new that if you have enthusiasm, you're participating outside of your normal day-to-day 9 to 5, that can be something that would attract a recruiter's interest in you more than just, the years of experience, et cetera.
I think the other thing as well, like if you're like a student, like in your last year and like you're eyeing up like a move into this space, like you've done like internships, depending like what your degree is like focused on, but like everybody, it's a pretty much level playing field. You know what I mean? Like there's not really a huge outlier. So like doing like stuff like I mentioned earlier, I think that's something that you can set yourself up like definitely apart from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and I would just add lastly, I mean, it doesn't always have to be you're building a project. I mean, like this event and conference is a prime example. Like these guys saw an opportunity to create something and bring people together. This looks great on a resume, and I think for any hiring manager, they would be super excited to hear about, the team that put this together. So, don't feel like it's got to be something crazy and technical. Like, contribute how you think, and it'll definitely pay off.
It's even like just like being a part of like the blockchain club that you go to school to, like, and I think the narrative is also changing around like crypto and like new talent coming into this space. I think I saw like a report back in like August, September, like for Stanford. I think they had more people enrolled in like intro to blockchain and crypto than their CS program. So that's like super interesting to see. But even like there's a lot of like outside of blockchain clubs, like there's a lot of like student-led initiatives, like whether it's for like, just for networking and mentorship. or it's just for more educational purposes. Like there's so much like opportunity and like stuff being built in that space. Like I think it really bodes well for the next couple of years to see like this new wave of talent coming in, and I'm kind of excited to see like how this changes the dynamic.
Love that. So WAGMI, good vibes, show you're interested, and find creative ways to participate. Talking about roles that we're recruiting for, can you guys give us some insight into the types of roles that you're recruiting for? Maybe give us an example of something that's been really, really hard for you guys to source.
Yeah, I mean, so Dan, who's the founder, and like the other like senior technical recruiter, like they both like have a quant recruiting background. I definitely don't have like that technical recruiting background. So like any of like the first calls that I had with the quants, like I was so lost because they're just like gigabrains.
Rapid fire, define quant.
That's crazy. So I know there's like 3 types, like you're a quant developer, a quant like strategist, researcher, and then a quant trader. Each one of them like do different things, but like they're mostly working at like hedge funds and like VCs and stuff like that. As far as like the types of roles, I mean, we even placed a community manager. So we're doing like everything from like, quant, devs, engineers, and then you have like the hybrid ones like, product roles, DevRel, and then you have like the non-technical ones. Anything marketing, biz dev, institutional sales, so on and so forth. So
the whole spectrum.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as a recruiter, I mean, we get thrown on a lot of stuff. I mean, we might be working on a Solidity dev and then a community manager, then it might be social media. I mean, we really have to learn enough about the role that we're hiring for to not be an expert, but have those conversations with experts and get them excited about the role. So, I mean, we're always kind of playing this, educator to ourselves on trying to figure out like, how much do I need to know? What excites me? How can I have these conversations? And I mean, specific roles, I think for me, I'm on the non-tech side. So when I do have to go technical, like Solidity, I'm not a smart contract developer. So like, it's tough, like I have to really ingrain myself and learn and leverage, other people who do. But yeah, it's ever changing, and I'm sure I'll work on a ton of other stuff. Like I said, I got started in construction and now I'm in crypto. So who knows what's next?
I'll also just put a quick plug out there for clients that we've worked with at Mikkel's Consulting and just what I'm seeing in this space. I'm having a hard time finding good community managers and social media, social marketing people. That's what I'm having the hardest part.
A good one.
A good one. A consistent
one.
Say they're everywhere. They're out there.
Yeah. So it sounds like Alex might be looking for Solidity devs. That might be something. If you are interested in that, reach out to him.
Please find me after. We have a lot of roles open at Fidelity focusing on that. So would love to connect.
If anyone here on the non-technical side is interested in being a community manager, outreach, social media manager, come find me. I have a ton of clients who are looking for that. Will, is there anything you want to plug?
I'll take them both.
Come on. Anything and everything. All right. So for those people who are looking, we talked a little bit about LinkedIn, about Discord. What are things that people should be doing right now if they are in the market for one of those roles? What types of activities should they be doing? How should they try to reach out to you or people like you?
I mean, it's going to take a lot of patience. I mean, I'll be honest, right now, the job market is going through some pretty significant downturns. I mean, I was not in the job market in 2008, but I'm working with people that are saying this is going to be close or worse, not to sound drastic, but it's going to be a tough time to find new roles. Companies are restricting their hiring, their budgets are getting smaller. So it's all about trying to navigate and find that. But I think for crypto, at least for me, it was all about, finding a company that I believed in and wanted to work with. I mean, there's definitely a lot of companies out there to go work for in crypto, but, if you don't use DeFi, don't go try to work at a DeFi protocol if you don't believe in it. Like find something that you connect with because that'll keep you through those ups and downs that come with it. And be patient. I mean, I was invested in crypto and part of crypto for 5 years before I found a crypto job. Like it definitely took some time to get here. Now that I'm here, I'm definitely not going anywhere, but just be patient, be resilient because it's kind of a tough market for sure.
I think that's the exact same amount of time that I've held crypto. And any Litecoin holders out there? I think that was the first
Don't raise your hand.
thing that I ever purchased. 2017 Litecoin. Anyone?
I mean, and to kind of expand off what else just said, right now it is kind of tough for like non-technical people at the moment. There's always a demand in the current market for like devs, engineers, because so many of these like protocols or startups are like still building out their product. So at this point, they don't really need like an institutional sales, or they don't need like a marketing person. The focus is on like building out like the engineering team and like building the product. So it is a really tough time. And then you couple that with like the fact that like some huge players within the last year have had like pretty large scale layoffs. So it is really tough at the moment.
I was just gonna say real quick too on that, as you're navigating the job market, I think what a lot of people, younger generation, don't think about, but as I've gotten older, I've had to think about it. I think, the next wave of people getting in the crypto world too is how much risk do you want to take? I mean, there's levels to crypto companies when it comes to more established players, like the centralized exchanges, to more startup environments. And you need to find what works for you. Like, not everybody is going to enjoy working at a startup, and that's okay. Like, you can find that middle ground. And I think, Fidelity is kind of an example, but there's a lot of players, Turner Sports was here, kind of these Web 2 companies that are now Web 2.5 that are finding some middle ground are going to provide a ton of opportunities to get stability, balance, benefits, good pay, without having to worry about kind of some of these crazy down cycles in the market. So just know what your risk is, especially if you're joining projects with tokens and different things like that. Like, definitely think through that, because it can go up and down.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a huge variety in the types of roles you can take in the space that I think is unique. You can go work for a DAO, you can work for brand new startup, you can get paid primarily in tokens that don't exist yet. That's a whole another thing to navigate. Did you have something that you wanted to add, Will?
I just see like a lot of people like more on like the degen side of things, like they like, get into a project and work like only on an equity basis. And that's such a risk, but it's also like a risk for your brand, because like, you associate your name like with that project. So I definitely like, if, I'd be really cautious.
Do your own research. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that.
Yeah, no, there's a few companies, like I won't name who they are, but obviously that have had some significant downturns and bad branding, and nothing against the people that work there, but it is hard to explain working at a company like that and then going somewhere else. So that's why be careful, like do your own research, make sure you're confident in the project you're joining, because that'll stick with you for a while, especially in how small crypto is right now.
Yeah, on that note of branding, of legitimacy, something else that's unique in the space is you could work at a company where most of the people that you work with, or some percentage of the people you work with, are anonymous. So how do you guys approach recruiting and anons?
Since like I've never really recruited on LinkedIn, like this was a huge hurdle early on, especially like on Discord especially. You have so many people like who are like bad actors or like scammers, like so to really identify that, it did take a little bit of time. But anybody who didn't really turn their camera on, like even though I asked them to, like there are a lot of key signs, and we kind of start to pick up on that, because like if we were to send essentially like a scammer, to one of our clients, like that's our reputation then like down the hole. So we really have to like vet that person and really do a deep dive on them.
So is it fair to say that that it is not realistic, at least for the types of roles that you guys recruit, for someone to actually remain fully anonymous?
Absolutely not, no. At some point, like you're gonna have to like dox yourself. That's just the reality.
Yeah, and even more so for Fidelity. We are probably one of the heaviest to vet in terms of candidate backgrounds and onboarding. So, that's on purpose. We want to make sure that the people that we are hiring, are vetted as they're, providing financial advice, or they have access to, financial information. So for us, it's not something that we're looking at right now, but I think it's something that could change the future of hiring, right? Like, it would be cool to stay anonymous and have side projects, or be able to, again, build a brand outside of who you are, where you've been, and what you look like. I think there's a lot of advantages to it, but I think we are still very early to see what companies that can fit into as part of their overall hiring strategy, I guess.
So I can see that as being maybe a little bit of friction between how some people in crypto on the degen side want to operate versus what companies are looking for. I'm curious what other frustrations you guys face from the hiring side when you're looking for a specific candidate. And then if you have any thoughts on how blockchain technologies could change that in the future, I'd be interested as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go. I mean, I guess, like I said, with some of our more legacy things like LinkedIn and applications and resumes, the technology hasn't changed in forever. I mean, the fact that, at one point my parents had a printout PDF resume, and there's still companies that, while it's not a printout, they still use a PDF. Maybe that needs to change. And again, like a lot of the systems, they're getting bogged down, they're slow. It's hard to connect with people. People might have outdated information. I mean, it's not a great way. And I think for crypto, like blockchain and technology that, it's built on could change it. I've heard of companies building, resume wallets where you can use it like an application, or your resume is now an NFT and you can send it and control who gets to see it, when they get to stop seeing it, like different things like that I think will, again, give us back control of our data. Because one thing that was interesting that somebody asked me is like, how many people do you think have and have seen your resume, and like, what are they doing with that? I have no idea. It's on LinkedIn, it's on Glassdoor, wherever. And that's dangerous. It's got my information, my phone number, my name, where I've worked, and I don't know where that info is going. So I think there's a lot of use cases there for at least the data privacy side and just efficiency to come.
Thank you for giving me a new nightmare to wake up to. I never thought about that before.
I've never thought about that one either. No, just to like real quick to kind of expand on that one point, I've definitely come across like some really interesting like projects who are essentially, trying to, do hiring, like the full cycle, like completely on chain, which that would like remove like, myself or any other recruiters. Like, I might be biased on that.
I was gonna say we're gonna technology our way out of a job soon, or AI.
Yeah, so like seeing like how they put that together and like incorporating like NFTs or like POAPs as just to certify I have this skill set or I've done this, like that will be really interesting to see like where that goes in the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like the idea, like especially education, right? Like, hey, your education is based on, a transcript and your degree. What if that was an NFT or a POAP, right? Like there's a lot of cool things that I think would speed the process way up for sure.
And that you didn't have to give the bursar $75 anytime you wanted a copy of.
Yeah, transcripts are a pain in the ass to get after the fact for sure.
Great. All right. So I think we've covered everything that's on the scripted agenda. So before we close out and open for questions from the audience, I would love to hear from each of you guys, on top of everything that we've discussed, what are your number one, maybe two, if it's really good, tips that you want to share with the people here around getting a job for Web3?
I think when going into it, like culture is such a huge thing in this space. And when you're going into an interview for like a, whatever Web3 job it is, I know this is generic, but it's super important for you to get a feel for them as much as it is for like them to interview as well. So like, what kind of runway are you working with? Who, like, are you VC? Are you bootstrapped? Who's invested in you guys? Get a feel for like the actual product. Like, make sure you have conviction in the team. Like, it's super important. Like, everything's still a startup at this point. So making sure, like, again, you have conviction in what they're building and you can add to that. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I would say to not steal it, but maybe build on it a little bit. Ask questions. I mean, I interview candidates early in their career that are super excited to get into crypto, and they could not care what project it is or who it's with. They just want to get into crypto because it's very exciting and it's the place to be. And that's okay. Like, take that excitement and just dig a little bit. Like Will said, it's like you want to make sure the place that you're going is the place that's actually going to fit you. So ask questions around things that you think are important. How risky is this? What's the manager like? I mean, just different things that can kind of get more deep conversations versus where'd you go to school and what's your background? Like, I feel like hiring needs to evolve from that, especially in crypto. And again, continue to ask questions. Like, even when you land in a job somewhere, your job search is always going. So even if you're happy where you're at, continue to ask the place questions to grow, as well as, make connections in the network, because you never know where you end up next.
Wow. Thank you guys for those. Those are great tips. All right. Do we have any? Oh, we already have a raised hand. Love it.
That was quick.
Short-term stints meaning like contracting out for a project versus becoming a full-time employee.
Do you mean like jumping or like doing like freelance work?
Okay, so the first one was, how do Web3 companies think about working at multiple jobs, basically having multiple jobs, working on different projects, different protocols. And the second one was, how do they view shorter stints on a resume?
We had a guy in our community, like I obviously can't name drop him, but he was working at Morgan Stanley and like TradFi, but he was also at like DeFi protocol. And he was like, they didn't know, and he ended up like dropping one because it's really like, it's inconceivable to try and do like 2 full-time jobs at once and just like kill yourself. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's all about how much participation, what's the compensation, is there a conflict of interest? I mean, at Fidelity, and I think most traditional finance now, crypto companies, there's a process for it. Like, again, I think at most companies, there's wiggle room, but a lot of that falls on you to kind of prove the story. And again, I think to Will's point, it's like, how much time can you possibly allocate to both and give it its all? And then again, I think from the job stints perspective, I don't look at it. I mean, when I look at a resume, if you looked at my resume, I jumped around. I had to do that for growth. I had to do that because of layoffs. The market moves, like it happens. I feel like it's less of a, red flag that people used to think. Like I don't see that now. And I think more hiring managers are getting on board with that. But again, it's all about how you tell the story. So, if you tell the story about why you did it, you can explain it very well. I think it lands better than if you just say, well, I was tired of this and went to that. So hopefully that answers those questions.
I think it's definitely like situational as well. Like if you've jumped around like pretty much your whole career, like you're basically a jumper, and like it's a huge red flag, like just on front. And then like as far as like freelance work, on the technical side, everything that we do is like on a full-time basis. So I guess my only takeaway from that is like the freelance side of things is like very prevalent with scammers.
As someone who works on the freelance side, it is full of scammers. I think that one unique thing about Web3 right now is that there are opportunities to work on multiple projects. So at Bankless Consulting, for example, we're all, we work as 1099 employees. We control our own time. I can decide to pick up projects and certain roles depending on hours. But I think what these guys said is also really important. There is a max capacity to how effective you can be on multiple projects. And there's some pretty interesting research that I'm blanking now on the name of the DAO. So if anyone can think of it, let me know. Where they looked at just in the DAO landscape, how many DAOs are people participating in and how effective can they actually be? And they found that 2 is about really the max.
Was it Metrics DAO? Was it Metrics DAO?
No, I want to say Talent DAO, but that's not right.
That Talent DAO is DeSci. That and
I think
actually
it might be
they
Talent
have
DAO.
Renee, like they have.
Yeah, South Lauren. Yeah, okay, it is Talent DAO. Yeah. Old memory, and that coffee something.
That was good. By the way, the
Yeah.
freelance was like for the engineering side of things. So just clarify that earlier.
Great. Any other questions? No burning questions. Oh, we have one.
What are some things that you love to see on a resume, and what are some of the things that were the worst things you've seen on a resume?
Some of your favorite things you've seen on a resume, what you love to see, and what you hate to see.
Favorite thing is like if you're like an engineer, if I see like anything like MEV related, like I'd love to see that. You're like a walking meal ticket for me. Just being honest. Now MEV has become a lot more saturated, so fair play there. But things that I hate to see, more than one page.
Resumes are tough. Everybody's got their own resume. Like I hate to say one thing is not good versus good. Like each role may have some different requirements. Like again, 1 page, 2 page, color, font, make it your own. I think it's all telling your story. I'll answer it differently though, because I know that wasn't a great answer. The one thing that I love to see from people reaching out to me as a recruiter is something other than, hello, my name is X. I went to school at Y. Here's what I've done. What job do you have for me? Kind of switching that narrative to, hey, here's, again, something that maybe you were looking for, or a joke or something to kind of lighten the mood. Like, recruiters are people too, hiring managers are people too. I can promise we will respond way more and be more involved with actual communication versus, no offense, probably the Georgia Tech and university like template that they give you when you graduate on how to get a job.
You don't like the in-mail spam messages?
I know I spam people on LinkedIn as well, so like I get it, it's templates, but throw a joke in there, do something different. Ask me about, what SBF is doing. I mean, whatever it is that you think is cool, like, do that, because I promise people will respond to that.
Spot on, yeah.
Amazing. I like to open with my life aspiration of being best friends with Julio Jones. If anyone can help me with that, please come find me at the end of this panel. And that's a wrap. So thank you guys so much for attending. Alex, Will, thank you for being our panelists.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.